It's crazy that the 3DS is almost nostalgic at this point, as in, hey, remember that time Mario made you violently unwell? Ask any Nintendo fan to come up with the best games ever released for the company's mighty Nintendo DS successor, the Nintendo 3DS, and they're probably going to be listing off the best 3DS games for quite a long time. And yet it almost didn't work out for Nintendo, their biggest evolutionary push for a handheld system to date, or for the fans eager to play what the 3DS had to offer. Had it not been for a surge of high quality games, the story of the Nintendo 3DS might have turned out very differently. Despite praise for Nintendo's 3D handheld gaming console when the system launched in 2011, many were left disappointed by the system's high price tag and sparse launch library of top tier games. Those would come later though. And also that the 3D effect for some people felt like riding Splash Mountain 5 mimosas deep, and also you're upside down and someone's trying to explain Tenet to you. It also helped when Nintendo drastically dropped the initial price tag from $249.99 to $169.99. Moves like this helped the 3D survive a bit of a disastrous launch, going on to become a powerhouse seller and a beloved chapter in the story of Nintendo that was eventually succeeded by the Switch. Don't know if you've heard of it. If you've got a hankering to play some 3DS hits, here are the best 3DS games ever to get you started. Be sure to check all of them out on the eShop for... Number 20, New Super Mario Bros. 2. There's something about the look and feel of New Super Mario Bros. 2 that feels like you're right in the middle of a tribute to the past and present that's simultaneously designed to be an indication of the future. Taking the basic platforming elements of a Mario title in some pretty fun directions, New Super Mario Bros. 2 proved that Nintendo could honour their past glories in a game with a lot of new bells and whistles that actually mean something to players. But it's fair to say that it isn't exactly the most essential Mario game ever. Bright and chaotic as hell would be two good ways to describe New Super Mario Bros. 2. It's also just a lot of fun, a wild adventure for Mario and Luigi that will appeal to gamers of all ages. That's honestly okay when the end result is such unabashed, instant joy. Apart from when you're jumping on those fish. Those fish. Number 19, Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D. Nothing about Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D is particularly groundbreaking, apart from the length of its name, Jesus Christ, but it's nonetheless impressive to see this game so fully realised on the 3DS. More importantly, it's a pleasure to see the best elements of any Donkey Kong Country game maintained. In other words, this is just a really fun game to pick up and play. Longtime fans of the series were and will be pleased with everything they find here. Those who play a Donkey Kong Country game for the first time with Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D will find that no prior experience is required. This game is tough as nails, but it's a breeze to pick up and start playing. Donkey Konky Kunky Redunky Free Donkey never forgets to be enjoyable, even as some of the more difficult moments can drive you close to or even beyond the point of madness. Be honest, how many bananas did you chuck in the bin out of spite after this one? I went to my local zoo, big bunch of bananas, and just right in front of the orangutan, just threw them in the bin, right there. Number 18, 3D Gunstar Heroes. 3D Gunstar Heroes came from a proud and successful lineage, as Gunstar Heroes has been a jewel in the Sega crown for quite some time, going back to the height of the Genesis' popularity in 1993. Genesis or Mega Drive? Guess we will have to start the War of Independence over again when we get to doing that list, eh? The game is at its core a run and gun with a group of heroes known as the Gunstars in their effort to stop an evil empire from taking over the world. It's the sort of game that challenges and delights you from the first few moments onward. The difficulty is manageable, and that's good because it's easy to get overwhelmed by the beautiful graphics, character sprites, and backgrounds. It's just so gorgeous! 3D Gunstar Heroes powerfully recreates the Genesis favourite for the 3DS with a decidedly impressive remaster that doesn't lose sight of what makes this game so enduringly beloved. There are even different modes available to help you curtail the game to your preferences and experience. Number 17, Shin Megami Tensei 4. RPGs did particularly well on the 3DS, with Shin Megami Tensei 4 being one of the very best. The game was a perfect fit for the handheld powerhouse, offering a deep, rich and immersive story. With great characters, a reliable and enjoyable combat system, and a massive world brilliantly brought to strong graphical life, Shin Megami Tensei 4 is another reason why this franchise is a juggernaut in the 21st century. Of course, though, the game isn't as sprawling or open to exploration as Shin Megami Tensei titles for more powerful consoles. Yet you're likely to be impressed with everything this game still brings to the table, which is a lot of freaky deaky weirdness. You're going to get lost in the complex, kind of batshit narrative and monster collecting fusion possibilities for quite a long time. SMT4 embraces the then present 3DS and what it can do without forgetting what people like about these groundbreaking games that also tend to be a bit too weird for about 90% of people. Number 16, WarioWare Gold. The WarioWare series became a hit for emphasising weirdness and easily accessible fun in the form of dozens and dozens of often surreal mini-games. There's not much of a point specifically to playing these games apart from having fun, but once you pick up something like WarioWare Gold, you'll instantly see why this game in particular is considered one of the true fan favourites of the 3DS. WarioWare Gold features everyone's favourite hateful little Mario themed malcontent hosting a gaming tournament with a very apparent intention of keeping the prize money for himself. Imagine if Noel Edmonds did that on Deal or No Deal, there'd be riots! Riots! It's ultimately up to you to move through this basic thread by playing the many odd little games that perfectly utilise the particulars of the 3DS. More than 1,000 microgames were created for the series up to this point, and you can play upward of about 300 of them in WarioWare Gold. Oh yeah, number 15, it's Picross 3D Round 2. Yes, Picross over SMT. We did not stutter. Nonogram games emphasise simple rules with complex solutions to the challenges at hand. No game arguably understands and celebrates these qualities better than the Picross series, and many regard the 3DS standout Picross 3D Round 2 to still be the best in this series. It's certainly deserving of a place among the best 3DS games ever made, and is objectively better than Shin Megami Tensei. Scalable degrees of difficulty are essential to a game such as Picross 3D Round 2, wrapped in a cosy, cool atmosphere that can't help but feel inviting, and it won't take you long to understand how this game wants you to go about solving its puzzles and obstacles. Where the game begins to suck up serious chunks of your free time is when you start getting into the more challenging portions of Picross 3D Round 2. However, even at that point, you can still create an experience that's fun without making you to, cross. Number 14, Mario and Luigi Dream Team. The sequel to the chart topper from our DS list, go watch that, it's pretty good. Isn't quite as good, but still plays like a dream. One thing you must give Nintendo credit for is using their new consoles to do interesting things with most of their major properties, apart from F-Zero, which they just made into a Battle Royale game, what the hell? Mario and Luigi Dream Team proves that the company is particularly willing to do strange and often delightful things with their most famous character, and also Mario. The game is going to feel like a Mario release from the moment you pick it up. As you begin to play through, you'll find a wide range of surprises and unique ideas, creating something that is familiar yet very fresh at the same time. Just keep in mind that you're in for one of the longest Mario games on record. The game never stops showing off its sense of humour, or looking for new ways to spin your expectations, so make sure you're going into Mario and Luigi Dream Team with an open mind. Number 13, Shovel Knight. One of the first games to bring back retro-style platforming games in a big way, Shovel Knight looks and plays beautifully on the Nintendo 3DS. It's one of the best games of the 2010s, and it makes perfect sense that it would also be here for the best 3DS games as well. Combining beautiful sprite graphics and surprisingly lush backgrounds with simple platform mechanics that lead to a truly rich, challenging playing experience, Shovel Knight reminds you of history in the best possible fashion. Brings to mind iconic titles like Mega Man. Just don't think the game is coasting on nostalgia though. Shovel Knight is a love letter to a formidable era, and it's something of a classic itself as we barrel through the 2020s. How is it 2023 already? But it's also the kind of fun that is very much centered in modern expectations. Also, jumping on things in games, pretty much always good. In real life, maybe just trampolines and not people. No Edward Norton in American History X. Bad Edward Norton, bad! Number 12, Mario Kart 7. Unfortunately, not some sick spin-off of David Fincher's iconic crime thriller, even if both do feature boxes. Mario Kart 7 continued the trend of Nintendo staying the course with their flagship kart racing series, while simultaneously making tweaks and additions, keeping the drama and devastation of some bastard sticking a blue shell up your backside in the final stretch intact. Mario Kart 7 has a lot to get excited about. New karts and characters, new tracks, and gently refined gameplay all serve to create a perfect experience on the 3DS. If you know and like Mario Kart already, this 7th entry in the franchise is going to be mostly more of the same in a way that avoids feeling stale. It helps that this game adds fun features like the ability to drive underwater. Gliders were also added to the proceedings, which also then made their way into Mario Kart 8, which has been selling something like 1 million copies a day for the last decade or so. These are just 2 examples of how Mario Kart 7 became a beloved entry in its own right, and a standout for the Nintendo 3DS. Number 11. Metroid: Samus Returns. The Metroid series is almost always a guarantee that you're going to have a great time, as long as your idea of a great time is smiling as you headbutt walls. While Samus Returns is effectively a remake of the Game Boy fan favourite Metroid 2 Return of Samus, just a few minutes of playing is going to make it apparent that this release is so much more than a fresh coat of paint and a couple of new enemies. Everything about that groundbreaking 1991 sequel has been revamped and refreshed, without taking away anything from the influential elements of the series that makes any entry a lot of fun. Samus Returns livens up your expectations with melee counterattacks and being able to aim as you please from any possible angle. You're also probably going to be impressed, even now, with just how stunning Samus Returns is with its backgrounds and character designs. Would you like to see us do a Metroid game ranking? You know where to put your thoughts. No, not there, you bloody deviant. Number 10. Kid Icarus Uprising. Someone's fingers just started throbbing. Stop being a deviant, not like that. Kid Icarus Uprising had to be a pretty sweet release for fans of the original Kid Icarus on the NES, which was mostly lost to time until series protagonist Pit was resurrected for the Super Smash Bros. Series. Uprising takes full advantage of the stereoscopic 3D power of the 3DS if you can hack it to create something that's as fun to play as it is visually striking. The shooter stages in particular show this game off in dazzling, uniquely dynamic form. The inherent challenge of the original Kid Icarus, one of the most notoriously difficult NES games ever made, hasn't been forgotten here either. You should just expect a much more manageable degree of challenge, but also a game that is almost ludicrously fast paced at times. You're going to be expected to keep up with a lot in Kid Icarus Uprising, but at no point will that ever begin to feel like a chore. It's beginning to feel like a chore to get Nintendo to do something with this guy again though. I mean, come on lads, come on. Number 9. Bravely Default. Square Enix has remained committed to creating JRPGs and other strategy-based games that aren't Final Fantasy. The 2012 Bravely Default for the 3DS was one of their most intriguing offerings in a while. It seemed to be drawn from the company's most famous RPGs, but with a different approach to story and characters, with a number of modern touches also thrown in for good measure. Bravely Default not only met these promises for genre fans, but it managed to succeed them with one of the best RPGs on the 3DS. Bravely Default weaves an engaging story with appealing and diverse characters, but the game also features elements like Brave Points. We won't get too deeply into the game's unique interactions and battle system traits, as it's simple yet surprisingly complex, giving Bravely Default the benefit of being more than just a throwback. You don't have to be brave to enjoy this game, you just have to not go outside for a while. Number 8. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. The Nintendo 3DS got 2 very good Luigi's Mansion games, including a remake of the GameCube original that's still fondly remembered today. I think I just called it a remake. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to keep it in there. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, also known as Luigi's Mansion 2 outside of the US, what's up, is the better of the two, offering what was then the best Luigi's Mansion game yet released, and proving the 3DS could deliver an incredible and immersive and fun experience. Dark Moon first succeeds by sticking to the best things about the first game and its remake, then it goes one better in almost every regard. You're going to get more places to explore, more refined gameplay, and a lot of secrets to uncover across a surprisingly deep game. The mechanics remain immensely satisfying as you guide Luigi in his ghost-busting adventures, which offers some of the best visuals on the 3DS. Dark Moon is just a really good time, and it says a lot about the next 7 games that this one isn't higher. Number 7. Fire Emblem Awakening. The Fire Emblem franchise will always have a pretty dedicated fan base, apart from with Engage, which seemed to just come out and then nobody was that bothered, weirdly. Fire Emblem Awakening for the 3DS is one of the reasons why, although the series goes all the way back to the NES days decades earlier. These games eventually shifted from being a niche franchise to one with wider appeal, and Awakening proved to be a significant step in that direction. The graphics and art style didn't hurt, but really Awakening didn't stray too far from the complex battle system and massive storyline that had always been part of these releases. So what made this game a step in a different, more mainstream direction? Perhaps it's simply that systems like the 3DS could finally open up the true potential of this elaborate, endlessly replayable strategy game classic. Or maybe it's the husbandos. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have 100 hours to spend. Definitely not a lot of that spent on save scumming. No sir. Number 6, Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King. Another outstanding RPG for the Nintendo 3DS, Dragon Quest VIII Journey of the Cursed King is one of the best RPG releases since the turn of the millennium and remains just as fresh and vital here as it originally did on the PS2. A visually sumptuous game with a story and main story quest that will keep you busy for a few dozen hours, Dragon Quest VIII is an epic in every imaginable sense. Taking the role of the hero, your journey including side quests can cover a remarkable variety of lands and worlds, encountering creatures, monster-eccentric characters, and everything else you might expect from one of the biggest and most beloved RPG franchises of all time. Journey of the Cursed King can almost be intimidating with just how seemingly endless this game can feel. That's not a bad thing. Even with the relatively straightforward combat system, the game has so much to see, do and experience that you're never going to get bored, especially with how many quality of life updates this port has. Number 5, Kirby Planet Robobot. Any of the best Kirby games in the history of the franchise combine the essential mechanics of these games with a pretty clever twist. Kirby Planet Robobot not only features what might be the absolute darkest story in the entire series, but also throws in some new fun additions, such as the ability for Kirby to pilot a mech. This proves to be a lot more fun than even someone excited by this premise might suspect. Kirby in Titanfall 3 confirmed. You can also count on Kirby Planet Robobot to offer a good sense of variety to not only the stage designs and bosses, but also in terms of the different genres represented here. There's some vehicle stages that are not only a good break from the main thread of Planet Robobot, but also show off the visual cleverness that is underscored by, again, an outstandingly dark plot. But sadly, there's nothing that's quite as dark as Robocop. No Kirby getting shot in the balls here. Or would it just be ball? Something to think about, guys. Something to think about. Number 4, Animal Crossing New Leaf. Animal Crossing New Leaf is yet another Animal Crossing game that wins for its cute designs and potentially endless opportunities to craft a unique world that looks awful, but hey, you spent all this time on it, so you may as well just bloody double down. Tasking you with the challenges of being the mayor of the town you've just arrived at, the main game alone has enough going on that you're going to be able to build, customize and collect for a pretty long time. There's a lot to do, and as is the case with Animal Crossing in general, a lot of friendly and sometimes strange faces to meet. Also, this is probably the last time we will see Mr. Rossetti at the height of his power, so drink it in. Drink it in. The sandbox qualities of Animal Crossing New Leaf still shine through on the 3DS in the present. This is one of the greatest 3DS games ever for that fact alone. Even as it has been overshadowed by New Horizons on the Switch, New Leaf still has its own energy and specifics that make it a standalone masterpiece of its type. Number 3, Pokemon UltraMoon and UltraSun. Exploring the distant shores of the Alola region, both Pokemon UltraSun and UltraMoon certainly set you up in a vast and beautiful world in which to collect and build up your Pokemon. Sun and Moon are fairly standard entries in the long-running franchise on a few fronts, but nonetheless find some avenues in which to change up the sort of experience you're expecting. Z-moves and more realistic models are just two examples of how the games aspire to be more than just the same old thing. The new Pokemon are fun to discover, collect and train, and either of these games make that fun to work on. With your fully customizable character, you can take on everything Alola has to offer, and to be sure, this pair of 3DS games have a lot to do, especially in the Ultra versions. Pokemon Sun and Moon are two of the best Pokemon games you'll ever play, but there are so many to choose from on the 3DS that it's more than fine if you want to put something like X and Y here instead. Maybe just not Pokemon Shuffle though? Maybe. Number 2, Super Mario 3D Land. It's hard to believe more than a decade has passed since the release of Super Mario 3D Land, the predecessor to Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U. The game had to cover a lot of ground. Players were expecting a handheld 3D platformer that would combine the fundamentals of Mario platforming with the potential of not only the 3DS itself, but how a game as unique as this would function in a world of handheld 3D gaming. As it turned out, no one needed to worry about a thing, as we got one of the best Mario games of the past quarter century. Super Mario 3D Land uses the 3D side of things intelligently and in ways that only serve to make the traditional Mario experience feel fresh and exciting once more. You know in your heart of hearts that you've missed the sight of Mario in a Tanuki suit, but make sure you don't miss out on our top pick for the best 3DS games of all time. Number 1, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. While our list of the best 3DS games covers some of the greatest titles Nintendo has ever released, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds may just be in a category all on its own. That's only marginally hyperbolic. Us? Hyperbolic? How bloody dare you? As we're talking about a legitimate contender in some hearts for the best Zelda game ever made. As good as the other 3DS games are, A Link Between Worlds is better, and not by a small amount either. By simply offering Link's transformation ability to players, A Link Between Worlds suddenly becomes an experience you can't have anywhere else, because this isn't just some surface level fun. The very nature by which you engage dungeons and other characters has undergone a radical transformation, one which is still rooted beautifully and vitally in the traditions of a perfect Zelda game, one that has somewhat been forgotten about with the introduction of the open world games on the Switch. It's breathtaking just how enjoyable this game is, making an argument in its own way that the best video games ever made are truly art on their own complex terms. Just look at Devil's Third. Now that is art right there. And that was our list for the best 3DS games of all time. What did we miss? What did we have too high? Why are we such stupid heads? Let us know down in the comments down below, and be sure to look forward next week to the final video in our series covering every Nintendo console, the Nintendo Switch. This has been Jimmy for Cultured Vultures, and thank you for watching.